What's going on? What's going on? What's going on, man? We are live on the air, 7mileradio.com. It is your boy Mark D, man, and we are here with my good friend, man. You've seen several times on the show with me. There's been, as I've said before, instrumental in a lot of things that's going on here at 7 Mile Radio. Charles Bell, State Representative, District 4 candidate. Charles Bell is in the building with me. How you doing today, brother?
Hey, I'm doing great as always. Just out here for the people, grinding.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. So we got a special conversation that we got going on here today, man. Because actually you've been doing classes for the last couple of weeks or so at the hip hop shop on West 7 Mile. I understand that you're going to be moving around doing those on different locations, but give us a brief overview of what it is that you've been doing classes on over the last couple of weeks before we get into your more recent works.
Yes, definitely. Well, I've been doing Black History classes at the hip hop shop every Saturday, 3 to 5 p.m. And I believe, we need to really have a deep understanding of race relations, how race was constructed, how the social problems that affect us daily, where did these problems come from? How did we get ourselves into these problems? And where do we go from here? So a lot of this stuff is not taught in your schools. You won't learn real black history in your schools. They still teaching us that Christopher Columbus discovered America. We know this is garbage. So we have to teach our people their history ourselves. We can't rely on this country to do it because they have an incentive not to do it. So that's one of the things that I'm doing.
A motive.
Reason, purpose. So I'm just going all around the city. I'm doing it at the hip hop shop this month. I'm doing it at the Greg Mathis Center next month. And we're just going to go around the whole city teaching people black history, the real truth, facts. I'm bringing the exact books with me. I'm not making none of this stuff up. I'm bringing videos to substantiate what I'm saying. It's all fact, no fiction.
That's what's up. That's what's up, man. So the conversation today is about mass incarceration.
Yes.
Now I understand that you have you are well educated. You have a background in racial inequality.
Exactly. PhD candidate, racial inequality, and criminal justice lecturer. I teach at Eastern Michigan University.
Okay, so you are very well. You have credentials to speak on this matter.
Exactly.
Make a long story short.
And then we just see the effects of it in our community. Where
as if common sense, isn't all that you would need to realize some of the things that's going on. You don't need a PhD.
You definitely don't
to understand that it's something in the water. You know what I mean? But we have a guest here with us today. Want to introduce the guest, or you want to let him introduce himself?
The guest today is Nicholas Buckingham. Is a former student of mine. Excellent, very insightful, bright young brother who just happened to have a background in incarceration. And I really wanted to bring him on the show today just to talk about his background, because I feel that he has a very insightful story. So I definitely encourage everyone to listen just to what he has to say, how this felony has affected his life. And even though he's a very bright student, excellent student in my class, he's still having problems finding a job where he can give back to the community in the way he wants to do it. And I don't understand why it's not fair. And I believe we need policy changes so we can help people like Nicholas and other brothers that really want to come back into society and do positive things. We shouldn't have these hindrances where people feel like they come out of prison, they don't know what to do, they can't get the resources that they need, so they end up going back. And that's not what we want to do. So it's definitely an honor to have Nicholas right here.
Yes, sir.
And if you want to say a few words, go ahead.
Share your experiences, brother.
I appreciate everything you just said about him, man. That was touching. The grind been real. Mm-hmm. The struggle been real, and I feel that a lot of people don't really understand what it's actually like to go into the system and to come home labeled as a felon. Mm-hmm. It's by far one of the hardest things to deal with, the hindrance by just finding a job.
Exactly.
And it goes deeper than just finding a job. We talking about housing. Mm-hmm. I've been turned away from finding good housing just for me and my family. Even in school right now, the battle is with my internship. Which intern is going to allow a felon to come onto their grounds and do what it is that the intern is supposed to do. So the battle is real, man.
Yeah, I can only imagine, and it's real for so many, young brothers. We have 20,000 black men in prison right now in Michigan alone, and when we expect these young men to come home, what kind of life will they come home to? Are we setting up a system where they can come out and flourish, or are we setting up a system where it's designed for them to keep going back, keep being product of that system?
A revolving door.
Recidivism.
The recidivism rate. No, we don't want our young men to keep going back to prison. We don't want them there at all. So I think that we have to listen to Nicholas as he tells his story, learn from this story, explore the factors that lead to prison, life on the inside of prison. And when you get out, these are real obstacles that people encounter, and it destroys lives. It really destroys lives. So if you don't mind, telling us, what do you feel like led you to prison?
It was a lot of factors that led me to prison. My bringing up as a child, my father was absent in my life, and then I had a very large age gap between me and my older brother. So a male figure in my life was kind of absent. And with my mother just being a single parent to 4 children and also working and doing what it is that she had to do, it was like she wasn't really there a lot of times. She did what she was supposed to have done. Other factors was education. If you don't make education appealing to a child, the child not gonna want to learn anything.
Exactly.
So I went to school just to socialize, hang with the homies. And I always say in middle school, that's where a lot of the madness take place. I learned about gang banging in middle school. I started smoking my first blunts in middle school. I started getting off in alcohol, and once all these factors take place, the disobedience towards family, towards the mother come into play. I felt like I'm a man at this point, because I didn't have that proper structure to lead me in the right path.
Exactly.
So I clashed with my mother, and I think she did what any mother would do. She put her child out at 16, and due to court reasons, I had to go to Lansing, and I went to Lansing to stay with my older brother, and we didn't really have that bond with each other. So it was something missing there. I felt like I was there and he was only there to watch me. So the more he was away, the more trouble I find myself to get into. Here it is. I'm a new person in a new city, and I want to find out what's hype. It's not really I'm trying to go there and get my life together. I fell off in the streets fast. You know what I mean? And we always throw out that one story that we connect with the wrong people. And the wrong people, I consider them guys my best friends. We just made some terrible choices. Armed robbery is what initially led me to prison. But before it was the armed robbery, I had a uttering and publishing case, and it was a jungle with itself. It was a deep struggle. It was the policy of the HYAT, when you do the time or whatever, or if you complete the probation, then they'll wipe it off your case.
Okay.
And it was cool. It really was. It was like, okay, I got in some trouble. I need to just kind of get back into things. But with the lack of education, the lack of family structure, I broke loose again. I seen what I thought would be a good opportunity, which wasn't. I fell off into the armed robbery and I got caught up.
Exactly. So you highlighted a lot of different factors that lead to prison, and one of the reasons why I'm actually hosting this forum next Saturday at Wayne State University in the General Lectures building on Mass Incarceration is because I'm very interested in the factors that lead to prison and this post-incarceration experience where you find yourself in this cycle of being discriminated against because of this felony. So on the front end, I'm interested in this education component because we know the factors that produce successful students. We know that if you invest in a student in a classroom environment, you put the materials there and you structure the lesson to the kid instead of teaching to the test, that produces a successful student.
Right.
But when we look at our public schools down here, that are under Republican control, emergency managers, and it's just the wrong model. The wrong model. So we have you go to school. The first thing you experiencing is that you're getting searched as soon as you walk through the door. You're getting frisked. You're getting going through metal detectors. You're treated like a criminal before you even enter the school. Who wants to be treated like a criminal every day? So that makes the school environment not even appealing to the kid. Then you go to the classroom, your opinion, your thoughts are not even valued. It's all about, learning the information the way I teach it. If you don't get it that way, bye. So it's a very rigid, non-reflexive environment that policymakers structure it like this. They put the pressure on the teachers so that they have to teach a certain way. They have to teach a certain amount of material at a certain deadline because certain tests are being administered statewide. And then you have teachers that are coming to school. They have to pay for the material out of their pockets. That's not the formula for constructing successful students. When you come to classrooms, or you going to you don't have paper, you don't have pens, you don't have books. I think that's a consensus around Detroit where you can ask just about any student that actually went to Detroit public schools, did your classroom have books? No. So how do we expect to produce successful students if we don't have books?
You contacted me a few weeks back about me adding my insight on my experiences on Detroit public schools.
Yep.
On an article that I believe was published on usuncut.com. And when I actually seen the article, like when I sent my submission for the article, I thought that it was going to be, I had to type up a whole page. But little did I know, we had other submissions from other students. And what kind of tripped me out was the fact that how all of their testimonies kind of applied to my situation as well. Like I experienced a lot of the same things today.
Exactly. It's amazing. It doesn't matter which school you go to, east side, west side.
Yeah, different schools. That's what I meant. That's why I forgot to add. Different schools, east to west. Everybody, no books. The books was raggedy. No toilet paper in the school bathrooms. I mean, no doors on the stalls in the bathroom.
Exactly.
It was a lot of the same things across the board, almost as if it was by design.
You know what? That's kind of funny how you say that when it's by design, because when you describing that school situation, that's how prison is set up. It's like which one is designed after the other. We know that prison isn't designed after the schools, but the way that you describing the schools now with the metal detectors,
it
the
sounds
searches,
like the prisons.
with the bathroom in prison, there was no stall doors.
I was in Osborne High School the year. Now there's a section right in the middle of the school that's specifically called the Four Corners, where it's like the main two hallways intersect. Now I was in Osborne the year that it got so rowdy to where they had to implement gates at the Four Corners to close it off, like during the school hours, I guess, to implement what was they called it, like man, I can't even remember the word, but basically like kind of locking the kids up in the classrooms, like when it's class time, we're locking the hallways down to where you're not in the hallway, you can't roam around in the hallways because we've got gates, so it's only certain places you can go. You know what I mean? It's kind of like quarantining the school off during the classroom hours, to where we can search this area and search this area, make sure there ain't no students lingering around.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's
quarantining is what it was.
It's just a very flawed model. We take a very reactionary approach to educating kids, where this is what we're going to teach. If it doesn't appeal to you, then you start, ditching class. Now we got to go capture you. We got to, get gang squad in the school. How about let's just
gang squad in the school? How about this? The year, the same. No, the year. I don't know if it was the year before or the year after they opened up. They put the gates at the Four Corners. We got a new principal.
Oh.
He was I believe he was a Muslim, like a Nation of Islam type of brother, right? So he wore a suit and tie to school every day, and he kind of resembled Mr. Clark from what's the movie? Shoot, I had it on missing the movie, but anyway, he carried a gun.
Oh wow!
Under his suit jacket.
In the school.
Mr. Clark from, oh my God, I'll tell y'all the movie after. Y'all, people that's listening know what movie I'm talking about. But yeah, man, it was the school, and he was kind of like, just like Mr. Clark was in the movie, as far as how strict he was, and but it was crazy how our principal, we knew that our principal carried a 4.5 under his suit jacket.
Wow. That's just like
you
the
talking
principal,
about the police in school.
Principal that was at Denby, a few years after I graduated, she just got indicted. She carried a bat around. You see your principal walking around the school with a bat. What kind of message is that?
Lean on Me, Mr. Clark from Lean on
There
Me.
you go.
Osborne High School in 1998-99 was Lean on Me.
And there it is. That's the very beginning of the school to prison pipeline right there, because President Clinton signed the Gun-Free Schools Act 1994, put all that legislation in the schools, and that's when you saw the metal detectors and all of that stuff started to explode, armed guards at the door. You wearing your coat around the whole school because you can't put it in the locker. You're scared to put your stuff down.
Oh man. I remember that, man. That I did that. Wow.
Exactly.
That was an element that I forgot. I didn't take my coat to my locker.
Exactly.
But yeah,
it's a true fight to get educated out here.
It really is. The model is just broken. It's a very broken model. How about you design the education environment to be appealing to the students?
Ooh.
I remember when Western International walked out. They had a walkout a few years ago, and they actually asked the students, what would you like to learn? They actually opened up a freedom school while the students were suspended. So they asked the students what they wanted to learn, and the students said, we want to learn about Detroit history, black history. I looked at the article, I said, what? You mean to tell me you're in the middle of Detroit and you're not teaching these kids about their own history? These kids have to protest and fight to get a quality education about themselves? That should be the very first thing that you teach. And the problem we have in Detroit, you have a population that is 80 to 90% black. And the first inkling you get of education of African American history, you open the page and it shows slavery.
Yep.
As if black history started with slavery.
That's the beginning.
That's all it revolves around.
How about
just
we
slavery.
go back to the beginning of Earth,
where
people started?
Exactly. where we were kings and queens, and we were kidnapped and taken from our land. Right. Let's talk about the reality, the truth. We don't want to hear about Christopher Columbus discovered America when there were Native Americans here before he got here. We don't want to hear that. So if you are giving these kids this fake education, and then you're telling them, I need to know geometry, I need to know all this stuff, but you're not giving them something to attach it to. I remember, sitting in my community, Calvin III, and ride my bike through Wayne State, never feeling connected to that environment. Never realizing that, college? Really? Because it just didn't even seem realistic that I would ever go. So how can you even construct an environment that is intended to produce success if you're not tailoring that education to the student? It's like you expecting them to, be off task. You want them to be off task. You're
designing it for them to go off mark.
Exactly. And then you put Gang Squad in, I gotcha. As soon as you off task, I'm capitalizing on you.
Gang Squad was more like School Squad.
I mean, everybody had to run in with Gang Squad.
Yeah, everybody had to run there.
Well, I guess I'm feeling like that because my years of high school was highlighted by Gang Squad being outside of the school every single day.
As soon as you left school, stay
like
in the school.
that was like School Squad.
Yeah.
I wasn't in a gang in the hood and and involved in the ignorance in the neighborhood, so I didn't encounter them on that level. I just seen them at school.
I remember when white tees started getting popular, Denby said you couldn't wear white tees. I mean, everybody was wearing a white tee, so to them, everybody was in the gang. They was throwing you up against the locker. You in the gang.
They stereotyping you over a white
tee.
They stereotype you over anything, man. You be in a group of four, and that's the gang right there.
Bam.
And that's
walk up the block.
That's right back.
Let alone any of y'all, have something on you that is giving the reason to, perpetuate the situation further.
Why you wearing your hat to the right? That's a gang sign.
A blue hat.
Why you wearing red today? That's a gang sign.
Hey, I got this red shirt on, man. This would have been back to high school.
You a blood?
Yeah, it'd have been on and popping. Gang Squad would have did something nasty, but
they could throw you up against the locker.
That's wild, man.
It's crazy. So if you design the environment to be off task, to be chaotic, what do you expect to produce? And it seems to me like this school to prison pipeline stuff is done on purpose. I feel like
ain't no seem like about it. It is.
It's
It
evidence
is.
there that
Apparently.
it's done on purpose.
it's done on purpose.
It's apparent that it's done on purpose.
Exactly. So, Nicholas was a very bright student that I had in my class. You know, one of the best students I had ever had. And when I found out he was having problems finding a job, I was just like, wow, you know, there's so many different issues wrapped up in his life that we need to really just support this brother and really help him out. Could you talk about your experience just coming home from prison? What was that like? What was your transition back into society like? And what were some of the obstacles you ran into?
Yeah, my transition, I always say that the transition started the day I walked into prison. You know, to walk away from the lifestyle that I had. And, you know, going into prison, my first couple years, it was rocky. You know, I went in there with fear. I was scared. You know, I heard stories. So I wanted to build a reputation real fast, you know what I mean? And, you know, 2 years go by, and I get into a lot of stuff, and then I run into the Brothers of the Nation of Islam, and they, you know, they pulled me out the mud, you know what I mean? And I never forget, an older gentleman had told me that, you know, prison is a black man's poor college. You know, you come here, they not gonna give you the material to be educated. You know, there's no college courses or the college prep. There's some college prep in there now, but when I was there, it was just sit down time. You know, you just come here and sit down. So I had an idea. You know, I had an idea. I had a goal.
He said, prison is the poor black man's college.
Like that's the next transitional step in your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is where you
hit it
go
up.
next.
And it's crazy when you say that, and I think about how many brothers come out of prison educated.
A lot.
Exactly.
A lot. I met.
My uncle, I am in fact the only male on my mother's side of the family who got his high school diploma outside of jail.
That's big.
I mean, it's a huge phenomenon. Like I
College,
said,
he said, prison is the poor black man's college. We have more black men in prison. Now, don't quote me. I would imagine
right now you got more black men in
than
prison
we have in college.
than were enslaved in 1850. That was in Michelle Alexander's research.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. When I seen that information right there, I was blown.
Teaching this in the course, the racial inequality course.
Yeah, that was
More black men in prison
and in slavery
than were enslaved in 1850. And you know what? To even put that further in context, I was actually taking a course, a history course, and I wrote this in my paper. You know what my professor said? Not shocking. Was it supposed to be shocking to me? Because it's not. And I said, wow, really?
That makes me feel some kind of way on both ends, being someone who's never spent a day in my life behind bars. That not on. It's like, it's crazy when something can make you feel blessed and scare the hell out of you at the same time.
Exactly.
Right.
Because it seems to be identically, like, strategically built for you in a sense. Whereas you look at the historical component of slavery, slaves were denied the opportunity to vote. Slaves couldn't really work and make their own money, and slaves couldn't own property. When you get out of prison, and while you in prison, a lot of times you can't vote, you can't own property. And they have discriminatory. That's the only place where it's legal to discriminate against you in a sense. They have no problem discriminating against you as soon as you get out of prison. You apply for housing. Oh, you're a felon.
Right.
No, that's legal.
Yeah, I've been turned down from so many, from trying to get into a place to live. Man, and, you know, it's like, why? You know, I went to this one. I'm not gonna say the name, but it's an apartment complex in Oak Park. And everything was going good. Like I make enough money to live here. Me and my girl. You know what I'm saying? I'm working. I'm a full-time college student, and I just had a child. And so when the lady come back, and you know, she like, well, yeah, we have to run a background. Damn, a background to live here? So I say, you know, cool. You know. So she asked me, do I have any felonies? I'm not thinking it's going to be a hindrance. Like, yeah, I have a felony. You know, it was like terminate on sight. You know, it was everything. We just sat there and wrote up. You know, me and this lady, we didn't sit back and we done had a funky good time. And you know, it's like the background check, it changed the whole vibe. And you know, she told me a story that it was a gentleman that was living on the property for about 20 years, and when they pushed in his policy to do the background check, he had to go. Can you imagine living in your home for 20 years and now you can't live there no more because the felony you committed, which in his case was over 20 years.
Wow.
He has to go. You know, that's deep. You know,
Wow.
To go back to the transition, when I came home, you know, I was off and running. You know, I had a goal, I had an idea. I got my first job within like the first month I was out. I came home August 29th, 2012. And you know, a couple days after that, I get a job at Family Dollar. And according to the conversation, they hire felons. You know, so I was working there for about a good 3, maybe 4 weeks. You know, I received the check. And you know, coming out of prison where I'm only making about $27 a month, here it is. I get my first check as a free man. That check, you know, it wasn't much, probably a couple $100. It was nice for me. But going into that 4th week of that job, they ran a background check on me. And they called in several other managers from different locations because they thought it was going to be a problem. And so they told me, you know, that they was real fearful of letting me go. But they're not letting me go due to the fact that I have a felony. They let me go due to the fact that it was armed robbery. You know, it's like, wow, here it is. I didn't work with you for almost a month. You know, I done built this relationship, and now you cut me off from it. And like I said, you know, this straight out of prison. So the mentality that I had, it wasn't stable.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It scared the hell out of me. You know, I panicked. I freaked out. And, you know, I went right back into what I was doing before I went to prison. I picked that bag back up. I wanted to sell me a little weed. And at the same time, I'm still going to network and find a job. But I seen that check come in. And I want to maintain that coming in. And once you cut me off from that, it's like, what do I do now?
Exactly.
I feel like society just kind of stuck a knife in my back. You know, all the little promises that, you know, it's programs in prison that they tell you, yeah, you know, you do this, do that, you're going to get a job. But they don't tell you about the background check that they can let you go from the job. You know,
just
so
off the rip.
Right.
And now when you combine the school to prison pipeline with it being a specific group of people in which that they're targeting to enslave, for lack of better or sugarcoating it, with the fact that now as you grow up, or when you get into the age of being able to participate in the workforce, now these things that you were targeted for specifically because of something as small as the area that you lived in is preventing you from thriving and being a productive part of society.
Exactly. You know, what we have to realize as a society is two things. If you don't let me make money legally, I'm gonna have to make it illegally because I'm not gonna starve to death.
And we're gonna prevent you from obtaining the credentials, and it's not even a fucking credential. Excuse my French, on being able to work. That's not a credential, but we're gonna deny you that right. So
It's
when
ridiculous.
you get to the age range that you need to provide for yourself, you're not able to do so legally. So now we're going to force you back into the system because there's no other option but to participate in illegal activities to you know, possibly support yourself.
Right.
Yeah. And then on the flip side of that, you know, prison is designed, or it's, you know, this term rehabilitation. If prison is supposed to be rehabilitation, you know, when I get out of prison, why do I still have this felony attached to me?
Right.
I served my time. I did my, you know, I paid my debt to society. Why are you still punishing me? That is a serious discussion that we need to have as a community, as a country, because you're setting people up for failure.
Yes.
This is wrong on a moral level. And if we are serious about really reducing incarceration, which I don't believe some of these presidential candidates are serious. I believe one may be serious. The rest of them is, you know, it's a business. It's a game, and they're making lots of money off of it. But you should not be punishing people when they come out of prison And then you try to blame the person. Well, it was you made that decision, but we are ignoring the social and structural factors that led to that decision. You can't, castrate me from making a means for my family, and then expect me to. What do you expect me to do? Starve? I mean, I don't get it. It don't make no sense to me.
Yeah, especially coming up now. I remember when we was sitting in class and we had the discussion about the ban the box. And I remember like when Obama first came on, he spoke about it, because I fit that category and I was out looking for a job. And, I was all for it. And I remember you had told me, like, what does that do? And you know what? Like right after that is when I actually went to go get another job, and I was denied because of the background check, and it hit me. I say, man, this is what Bell was talking about right here, man.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? You commit a crime, and then you go to prison. And like you said, it's not a rehabilitation. A lot of people say don't connect prison with rehabilitation. It's a punishment. But if you sit back and you punish somebody, what does that do to them mentally? That doesn't mean that they gonna come back, goody two shoes. You might come back with a vengeance on your shoulder. You might come back really mad at the world.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So I always say, it's a punishment that's wrong, but they need to discipline the mind. Discipline a person to come out of there to be productive. You can't just continuously punish somebody, take half of their life away, and then kick them out the door and tell you just to get it together.
Yeah. And then on the other side, it's like, a lot of people wouldn't even go to prison if you didn't have these systemic inequalities in place before they went to prison. If families could actually be a family, if mom didn't have to work 2 or 3 jobs to make a living wage, if dad didn't have to, get that bag to provide for his family, a lot of these kids would never end up in prison. If my school had books, if my school actually taught me something that I felt applied to me. And one of the programs I'm actually trying to start in my community is a Chase Your Dreams initiative. And I'm doing this for my community because I know what it did for me. First thing I want to do is I actually want to tell kids, why college? Why higher education? I don't care if it's a trade. Get something. Get a skill that you can market and make money off of. And I'm going to tell them what college did for me. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm taking them there, so they can actually see a lecture hall, see researchers. I remember, my first year in college, I got scooped up by a research program. They actually showed me what real research was like. We were in a real laboratory, not the lab where we didn't have any, supplies. There was no, we're gonna do an experiment in our mind with no materials and stuff like that. So a real lab. And I actually saw them working with different chemicals, and I worked right next door to an HIV lab. I can see posters on the wall and different, germs and diagrams and stuff like that. Kids need to see it. And at Wayne State, at any university, if we can take these kids there and they tell you, I want to be a doctor, you show them some doctors. I want to be a scientist. If you show them some scientists, allow them to sit down with those scientists and map out their course.
Give them a blueprint.
Give them a blueprint. Because, if you tell them you can do it, then you expose them to somebody who is doing it. Then you sit them down and you show them how to do it. That's a foolproof recipe for success, and it's a shame that nobody is doing it.
Right.
Not only that nobody's doing it, right? I remember distinctively, I don't know if it was about a year ago or so, Charles, where you told me about how you propositioned a couple of schools as far as you coming to speak.
And got denied.
And you got denied.
Unbelievable,
Yet and still, we have these, and not to down anything about the hip hop industry or no rappers or nothing, but we have a lot of these hip hop artists that are local celebrities in the city who have the golden light to go into these high schools and speak to these kids as if they are some sort of mentor, while on stage at the same time talking about how successful you can do this and do that while you are sipping a cup of lean.
Yeah. The wrong message.
At the most prominent high school in the city of Detroit. You want to be on stage rapping about what you do in the streets on your phone and how you get your money. And you want to talk about, what it is that you do in the strip clubs while you on stage sipping something illegal.
Yeah, that narrative has to change. We got to do
But
more.
that's the
for
role
kids.
model. That guy's green lighted.
He green lighted. He getting to schools all the time. And
Somebody like Charlie Bell.
I don't get it, man. One of the things I tried to do is I actually tried to go back to Denby. I'm putting them out there, and because they already know. I've sent numerous messages, and I really wanted to go out of the kindness of my heart because I never thought that I would go to college. My neighborhood was a red zone when I was living there. It was shootings, drive-by shootings. We would be ducking, getting on the floor, and just to go from that environment to be a researcher where I've traveled the country, present my research. I said I got to go back to my high school, talk to these kids, and tell them that you can be successful.
Right.
So I sent an email. No response. First year I did it. Second year I called. Multiple emails, calling, couldn't get in. The next year somebody told me, why don't you just go up there and just try to sneak in? Security carried me out of that bad boy. I couldn't even get to the principal's office to, get to the door. Like, I just don't understand. Like, why wouldn't you let a successful student? And I'm not trying to gloat on myself. I'm just trying to, promote positivity in these kids. I wish somebody would have came, because I remember when I was a senior in high school, I was scared to death. College, first person in my family to ever go to college. I don't know nothing about no college. Filling out financial aid forms. The only thing I knew about college is that it's expensive as hell, and I don't have no money.
Yeah.
So how am I gonna go? People telling me it costs $5,000-$6,000 a semester. I ain't never seen $5,000 or $6,000 in my life.
Yeah.
So how am I gonna go?
Right, yeah.
Right. And you know what, man? I be like some of the young cats that I be kicking it with now. The common thing that I hear about the transition from going from school to college is they're afraid to read in front of the class.
Exactly.
And it's like, wow, wow, you're afraid to read in front of the class. Like, that's a problem. That's not a problem with the individual. That's a problem with the system.
Yeah.
With the system.
Because you're not prepared.
So what is it that this individual has done from grade school, from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade, if you had this fear that I can't read in front of the class?
You spoke on something earlier, speaking on problems with the system. I know firsthand, as a product of DPS, that was removed from DPS, sent to schools overseas, where the system is different. I noticed as a kid.
I remember reading that when you said,
you know what I mean? I noticed as a kid the difference in my own development when I was put in a different environment. When I was put in the classroom where the instructors appeared even to care about the students' welfare and their education and what they were teaching the kids. The environment was cleaner. Things of that nature. It's a lot of things that come into play that psychologically affect the students.
exactly.
And actually block them from being receptive to that type of information and education, because there's too many other things for them to think about. There's too many other things on their mind.
And I feel like, a lot of our classrooms, sometimes you might get a teacher that, we feel like the teacher really didn't care about us. Sometimes that happens, but you have to think about the pressure that the teachers is under. Sometimes,
And it all goes back to the system.
goes back to the system at the top. We keep telling our teachers, you need to do this, you need to do that. We need our students to know this, but the state keeps sending less and less money.
Right.
How am I supposed to assign homework to a kid if there's not enough books to take home?
Right.
It doesn't make any sense. How are we supposed to learn if it's raining in my classroom? If there's mice running around the classroom, if the floor is buckling up,
If I got mushrooms
growing in the
growing out of the damn floor on the walls,
Yeah,
Right.
It's wintertime and the heat don't work. And this is criminal stuff,
It's fall,
Right. And the
rain is coming through the roof and the holes in the ceilings.
the one question I just want to ask, man, I always want to answer to it is, how is it that they do a budget cut? They take all this money away from the schools.
Exactly.
And they put it right there in the prisons, man. And you walk in some of these prisons, man, and they more hyped up than some of these college campuses. When I was locked up in Muskegon, and they called Muskegon an honor prison. You know, it had a movie theater. You know what I mean? You can go there and ride bikes. You can go skiing. You know what I mean? This campus was. Look at it. You see how it just switched up? This campus. You know, when you on there, because they make it so that it feels so comfortable. But when you off into these schools, man, the school would be a war zone. You know what I mean? The school, it'd be a straight up war zone. The prison look beautiful. How does this happen? You know, why take the money away from the children and put it off into the prison? So that's right there. That's evidence.
Why would you, as a government,
movie theater?
Why would you, as a government, invest? What was it? $50,000 a month per inmate per month? Private owned prison.
$30,000.
You don't invest that much into the schools. The schools. Why don't the students?
Right. And you know, I always
get that much. Now, when you look at that amount of money, not to cut you off, that amount of money that they get for the inmates every month, and you look at the clothes that they have that they issue to the inmates, you look at the food that they have that they issue to the inmates, you look at the jobs that they have to issue to the inmates, how much they profit off of those jobs versus how much they pay the inmates.
Exactly.
And then you combine all of that and see how much this owner of the prison profits off of this whole situation.
I've heard
now it makes sense onto why they want it to be the way that it is.
Right.
I want to ask you a question too. I heard from other people who've been to prison that like garments like U.S. flags and license plates and other things are made in prisons.
Oh yeah. Your license plate on the back of your truck right now was made in Adrian, level 2. You know what I mean? I have to put this company out there, man.
He went right to the prison and to the section of the prison.
Hey, listen, one of the companies, man, Habitat for Humanity, they have a contract with MDOC. You know, MDOC Prisons does a lot for Habitat for Humanity for pennies. For pennies. You know, for pennies. That's it. And when I came home, guess what? I tried to apply for Habitat for Humanity. You know what they told me?
No,
we don't hire felons.
So they will lock you up. Listen, they will lock you up. You can work for them in the prison.
In the prison
after you get convicted for it. While you're not, when you don't have your rights.
That's right.
But when you get out and you have your rights, you're not qualified for this job because you were in there. Where like we made too much money off of you for free. We don't even want to pay you now.
Wow.
No, it was deep, you know, and I wanted to expose them so bad, but I was so, you know, at that time, man, I didn't know what to say. You know, that was mind-boggling.
That's ridiculous.
But
shame on you, Habitat Humanity.
You cannot work for us as a free man.
Yeah.
Wow.
But you are contracted to work for us
as
an inmate. For pennies.
As an inmate.
Yes, sir.
As an inmate. We would rather have inmates work for us. That's why it's more profitable. That's why it's so profitable.
Yep.
For prisons to be full.
That's right.
Exactly.
Because it's cheaper for companies.
The labor. And that's just slavery 2.0.
Oh yeah, all day. You know, another thing they do in there is you know, they do a lot of the gardening. You know how you will see the urban gardening going on now. You know, the prisons have gardens in there and they grow the food, and a portion of it go to the prison, and then it's a large portion that go to vendors outside the prison.
Wow.
You know, and we'll work in the gardens, and you probably make around 72 cents a day. You know, you digging, you're plotting, you're planting, and you're cleaning them, and you're shipping them off. So yeah, modern day slavery all day.
Wow.
Man, that
just took me
just something to think about right now. I got to go to break. On that note, wow, a lot of heavy stuff to think about today, man. Shout out to everybody that's listening right now from Detroit, Philadelphia, Birmingham, Missouri, and everywhere else, man, across the country, man. We'll be right back. 7mileradio.com. State Representative candidate Charles Bell, District 4 is in the building, man. Mass incarceration is what we're talking about. We'll be right back.